Welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Visit telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's telehealthfx.com. Now, here's your hosts.
Okay, so if you've spent any time on wellness social media lately, you've probably seen someone talking about peptides like they're the secret ingredient nobody told you about.
BPC-157, TB-500, this whole peptide stack trend, people talking about it like it's basically a cheat code for healing and anti-aging.
Right, and today we're going to actually dig into what peptides are, what the science says, and something people really aren't talking about enough, which is the legal and safety side of this whole trend.
Because this is one of those topics where the hype has run way ahead of the actual evidence, and honestly, way ahead of what's even legal right now.
So let's start with the basics. What even is a peptide?
A peptide is just a short chain of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So think of it as a tiny, tiny fragment of a protein. Your body actually makes peptides naturally all the time. They're involved in things like hormone signaling and immune function.
So that's part of why they get marketed as natural and safe, because technically, yes, peptides exist in your body already.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Just because something is a peptide doesn't mean every peptide you can buy online is the same as what your body produces, or that it's been tested and proven safe for you to take.
Let's talk about the one everybody's heard of, BPC-157. It's sometimes called the body protection compound.
It was originally isolated from human gastric juice, and in animal studies, it's shown some interesting effects around tissue repair, things like tendon healing and gut lining recovery.
And that's the research people are pointing to when they say it's a miracle recovery peptide.
Right. But here's the myth-busting part. Those studies are almost entirely in animal models, in preclinical research. That is genuinely different from having large, well-designed human clinical trials proving it's safe and effective for people.
So, promising early research, not proof.
Not proof. And a 2026 regulatory review actually acknowledges this directly, that despite the buzz, there still isn't sufficient comprehensive clinical evidence in humans to support approval by the FDA or other major health authorities.
Okay, so now let's get into the part that I think genuinely surprises people, which is the legal status of these things.
This is huge, and it's changing right now. Back in 2023 and 2024, the FDA actually removed BPC-157, TB-500, and several other popular peptides from the official lists that licensed pharmacies legally compound them for patients.
So even with a prescription, a pharmacy technically couldn't make these for you anymore?
Correct. And right now, there's no legal pathway for selling something like BPC-157 as a drug, a food, or a supplement in the United States.
Which means what people are actually buying online
is almost always labeled as a, quote, research chemical, not for human consumption. That label exists specifically because it hasn't gone through the safety and manufacturing oversight that real medications go through.
So no quality control, no guarantee of what's actually in the vial, no dosing standards.
None of that. And here's the twist for anyone following this closely. There's actual movement happening this summer. The FDA has an advisory committee meeting scheduled for late July 2026, specifically to reconsider restrictions on several of these peptides.
So this could change.
It could. And there's been talk that a good chunk of the restricted peptides might eventually move back toward legal compounding status. But as of right now, nothing formal has been published, so the legal gray zone is still very much the reality.
This is exactly the kind of nuance that gets lost on social media. Somebody sees a headline that says regulations might loosen, and suddenly they think it's already legal and totally fine to order.
Which brings us to the biggest myth we want to bust today. The idea that natural or trending automatically equals safe or legal.
Let's talk about who's actually using these peptides and why that context matters. A lot of the buzz comes from athletes, biohackers, people chasing faster injury recovery or anti-aging.
Today's episode is brought to you by Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Visit telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's telehealthfx.com. Now back to the show.
Benefits.
And it's worth noting, some peptides are still banned for competitive athletes specifically. They show up on prohibited lists for organizations that regulate doping, even separate from whatever the FDA decides about compounding.
So even if the FDA relaxes its rules, that doesn't mean it's fine for someone in competitive sports to use.
Exactly. Different rule books, different consequences.
Now, let's flip to what does have solid backing. There actually are FDA-approved peptide medications out there.
Right, this is important context. The GLP-1 medications people hear about for diabetes and weight management, those are technically peptides too, and they've gone through full clinical trials and FDA approval.
So the category of peptide medicine isn't inherently sketchy. It's specifically these unapproved, self-sourced research chemical peptides that are the concern.
That distinction matters so much. A prescribed, FDA-approved peptide medication managed by your doctor is a completely different situation than something you found through an online research chemical seller.
Let's talk common mistakes people make with this trend.
Mistake number 1. Assuming animal study results automatically translate to the same effects and safety in humans. They often don't.
Mistake number 2. Self-sourcing peptides online without any medical guidance or knowledge of what's actually in the product.
Mistake number 3. Stacking multiple unregulated peptides at once, which multiplies the unknowns instead of the benefits.
And mistake number 4, ignoring the legal side entirely and assuming that because something is easy to buy, it must be fine.
Easy to buy has never meant safe or legal. We've seen that story before with plenty of other substances.
So what should someone actually do if they're curious about peptides for something like injury recovery or anti-aging?
Honestly, the answer is talk to a licensed physician. Ideally one who specializes in this space and stays current on the regulatory landscape, because it is genuinely shifting right now.
A real doctor can walk you through what's currently legal, what's actually backed by human evidence, and what the realistic risks are for your specific situation.
And that conversation is going to look really different depending on whether you're an athlete, someone managing an injury, or just curious because you saw a video online.
We also want to be really clear. Everything we've talked about today is educational. This is not medical advice, and we are not telling anyone to start, stop, or source any peptide on their own.
If you're dealing with an injury, a chronic condition, or you're just curious about whether a peptide therapy makes sense for you, that conversation needs to happen with a licensed doctor who knows your full health history.
All right, let's wrap up with our 3 key takeaways. Number 1, most peptides trending in wellness circles right now, including BPC-157 and TB-500, are backed mainly by animal research, not large human clinical trials.
Number 2, the legal status of these peptides is genuinely in flux. They were pulled from legal compounding lists in 2023 and 2024, and regulatory review is happening again in the summer of 2026, but nothing is confirmed yet.
And number 3, natural or trending does not equal safe, legal, or proven. That gap is exactly where a lot of people get into trouble.
Your one action step for this week, if you're curious about peptides for any reason, don't source anything online on your own. Instead, write down your specific questions and bring them to a licensed physician who can speak to both the current science and the current legal landscape.
If this episode gave you some clarity, share it with someone who's been tempted by all the peptide hype online. They need this context too.
And if you've got questions about specific peptides you've been hearing about, drop them in the comments. We read every one, and it helps us pick future topics.
Subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, and we'll catch you then.
Thanks for listening to Healthy Lifestyle Podcast. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to visit our sponsor, Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Go to telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's TelehealthFX.com. See you next time.